With 37 days left to the presidential election of Africa's most populous black nation, Nigeria, Nigerians are determined to ensure that come February 25th, 2023, they will exercise their civil rights at various polling units, making a conscious choice. However, political parties have been talking about their mandates far away in the United Kingdom. Yesterday was, of course, the turn of the new Nigeria People's Party presidential candidate, Kwankwaso, who spoke on a lot of issues. He spoke on why the merger with Labour Party did not happen. He spoke about the anti-democratic forces scheming to disrupt the elections. He also spoke about reforming the education sector completely in 4 years.
Now, of course, let's focus on some of the points raised by the presidential candidate of the NNPP first. Why the union with the Labour Party did not work. The former governor attributed a failure to media hype being enjoyed by the Labour Party at that time. Now, let's, of course, one of the things that, I think I did get to see a lot of the reactions to this, but let's watch a video and hear him say it himself.
You see, that's the problem we have. The gentleman who stood up there, I'm sure he comes from a particular group or a region without even asking him, just because you saw, if you have a party which is based on ethnicity and religion, that's the difference between Labour Party and, of course, our party, which is a national party, New Nigeria People's Party. Now, we want, please, you see, while we are accusing leaders of being one thing or the other negative, I think the followers also must learn how to be Nigerians, not coming from one part of the country. Let me say that I was one of those initially wanting to work together with Labour Party. But unfortunately, at that time, Labour Party was under very serious media hype, and therefore they could not see reason. And you still not see reason that I will withdraw. I wish you didn't go to that extent. You would have said that to work with Labour or to work with APC or PDP.
Oh. Joining us to look at this is a political affairs and parliamentary analyst, Fred Itwa. Good morning, Mr. Itwa. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good morning. Glad to be here.
Now, let's, first of all, talk about the comment by Rabi Musa Kwankwaso about the Labour Party being a party founded on tribe and religion and some of all of that. What are your reactions to that?
Okay, first, Kwankwaso is not in a position to make those claims. If you judge by his antecedents, I think he's wrong. I'm not a big fan of Obi for reasons I'm not ready to advance here. But Obi did not found Labour Party. He only joined that platform when it was obvious that the PDP wasn't going to create a level playing field for his aspirant then, where Abubakar Atiku emerged as his candidate. So he only settled for that party, probably using that as a platform to achieve his presidential ambition, which so far has gained the kind of thing that nobody expected ab initio. So to claim that it is a party founded on religion or ethnicity, I think is wrong. I think the chairman of that party, if I'm very sure, is from Edo State, which is predominantly Christian, which is not Igbo by any strand or imagination. So it's wrong to have made that claim. The person who should even defend his record when it comes to religion, ethnicity, unfortunately, should be Kwankwaso, who, as governor, if you recall very well, was one of those who championed the defeat of Jonathan, just for one reason, that it was the turn of the North to produce the next president. So for someone who is known for being very clannish and tends to pander to ethnic sentiment, to accuse Obi of doing same, I think it's just a joke taken too far.
All right, now let's take the conversation further and also touch on the aspect of the presidential candidate's plans, especially for the education sector. Let's hear him.
You see, for those who are familiar with our antecedents, definitely will have no option other than to believe that we took education very seriously when we had an opportunity. And I want to tell you that in 4 years in Kano, we took over 3,000 young men and women to 14 countries across the world. In fact, when I came here, I met some marine engineers who I think are here with us. So, is there anybody? Yeah, they are here. They are part of over 3,000 that we sent out of the country to 14 countries in 4 years. And that's in addition to the universities that we established, 2 universities in Kano. And I am happy to say that in our country, we have a lot of resources, a lot of money. Anybody who says all these things we are saying are not possible, maybe he is part of the scam or he doesn't understand. We have enough resources, we have enough manpower, we have everything that we require to ensure that each child in Nigeria goes to school. And we have done it when I had an opportunity to go to be the governor of Kano State.
All right, you've heard what the presidential candidate had talked about in regards to his plan for education. In addition to that, he also did mention that he would ensure that JAMB is given a 4-year validity period so that students can use the same JAMB results to get into university even after the year, 3 years later. What are your thoughts, in general, on his thoughts about education?
Okay, first, his comment about JAMB, I think is just is being political there. He is not in his place to determine how that should work. If you understand how the system works across the world, like SAT you take in the US, and other exams, there's a validity period after which you have to sit for another exam and all of that. I think that's just politics. I would prefer to ignore that. Then on the second aspect where he's boasting of what he did in the education sector, I'm a bit worried about that because I followed his antecedents as a politician, at least as far as I can recall. And I also know very well that as governor, his major achievement in education was a case of capital flights, where the best children were sent to some of the best universities abroad and not in Kano State. So if his idea of education reform is to send the best abroad, who is then will likely not return, I think he's standing on the wrong footing even before getting into power. Again, he said he has established 2 universities as governor. As I sit here, I'm not sure I know the name of those 2 universities. And in terms of ranking, I'm not sure they're among the first 50 in Nigeria, talk less of global ranking. So if in 8 years as governor, there is no major footprint in Kano State to say, okay, when he had sway, this was what he did. I wonder what he intends to replicate at the center, unless probably wants to improve on what he did already, which at his appearance yesterday, he did not mention any of that. Maybe just something he's keeping to himself, hoping that when he becomes a president, he will unfold. But if we judge by his antecedents, what he did in Kano is like a case of a local stuff. It won't fly in Nigeria. It won't fly in the South, for instance, where education as it is already very advanced. So I don't know how he intends to do that, but if that's what he intends to replicate at the center, he's obviously going to fail, and I doubt it that will work.
Well, it's pretty much, the same thing with, when talking about the investments in healthcare and plans to improve healthcare, then you say, oh, I sent a lot of people abroad to study medicine, but we're talking about primary healthcare. We're talking about, the healthcare services in your state. So it's just, a pretty interesting response that you had. But I want to, get your views on the NNPP and its national spread, because Rabi Musa Kwankwaso believes that the election is his to win. So do you trust that, that the NNPP, or do you believe the NNPP has a national spread enough to get the required votes to get Rabi Musa Kwankwaso in office? And also, one of the comments that also went viral yesterday was when he said that he's a master's degree, or a PhD holder rather, and that he was a public servant for about 17 years, and that he's not a trader. Of course, basically talking down on the Labour Party's candidates. So can you respond to those two things?
Okay, for a start, if election should hold today, NNPP will not get 25% from any state in the south, not even from Edo State, where his running mate, who I'm not sure I know his name, is from. Probably in a place like Kano, he will cause a major upset, which is expected. That is his primary area of influence. In a place like Kaduna, maybe some handful of votes. Ditto for Katsina. Let's say Northwest, he may probably pull one or two strings, but the constitutional requirement for you to become president is that besides scoring the highest number of votes, you also have to score 25% in at least two-thirds of the state. Two-thirds in this case is 24 states. Kwankwaso will not get two-thirds spread across the country. Now, he also made some claims that the Labour Party man, that he has experience being a politician, having a PhD, all of that. I don't think those are criteria that we should use in judging who becomes the next president. The current vice president is a professor of law and is the head of the economic team. Viewers can judge for themselves if he has done well as a good manager of the economy. We also have a president who has very brilliant credentials as a general, retired general, and a military head of state. If those credentials have turned out to be something good, Nigeria can also judge for themselves. Now, if they've tried all of those and it hasn't worked, and you have a man, for instance, who they tend to demean by calling him a trader, and he has the magic wand to change things around, why don't you give him a chance and see the difference between him and the others? Well, to campaign on that premise is, for me, is unnecessary. People should be judged, I always insist, on what you have done on your antecedents. He was a governor for 8 years, Obi was a governor for 8 years, Atiku Abubakar was a VP for 8 years, same for Bola Tinubu. Let's go back to what they did while they were in office, how tolerant they were to our diversity as Nigerians, religious diversity as well, how tolerant they were. The kind of economy they inherited, the GDP of the various states, and what they did by the time they were leaving office. These are stuff we should talk about, and how to solve the problem of insecurity, address fiscal irresponsibility of the current administration. Same for monetary policy. If those issues are not addressed, I still dwell on what Nigerians have talked about over the last 2 decades since the beginning of the Fourth Republic. I think it's just another case of taking an unserious joke too far.
We can't, of course, have this conversation without making reference to something which we discussed earlier, which is, of course, the importance of Chatham House as regards conversations regarding Nigeria's new president. Now, there have been criticisms and there have, been comments in support, whilst some wonder why they have to all go to Chatham House to have these conversations and not stay back here to have these conversations with Nigerian media. Others are of the view that at least they're speaking up. What side of the divide are you on?
Okay, there is nothing wrong with that, so to say, although people have criticized it. But if we are serious, we can have the same here, a system where you can have that local arrangement here. For instance, we have NNIA in Nigeria, which is like the equivalent of Chatham House, where intellectual discourse of candidates and what they tend to do for the country can be expounded. I also have professional bodies here that should organize such. For instance, you have the Nigerian Union of Journalists that should ordinarily take the shine and insist that each candidate should face the media and talk to Nigerians of what they plan to do. But fortunately, we don't have the kind of leadership at that level to coordinate that. Also, a guild of editors, they've not been able to do that as well. Even major media houses that should be neutral so as to coordinate so these conversations where every candidate will feel at home and engage Nigerians, that has not happened as well. So it's something that we probably may have to plan after these elections to say, okay, going forward, this is what should happen. Unfortunately, that has not happened. If you also look at the media space in Nigeria, as of today, there is no template on the coverage of the coming elections. As we speak now, like a guideline how journalists should behave, rules of engagement, and interface with all the parties that will participate during the elections. That hasn't happened so far. So going to Chatham House for now is not totally bad, but in the future, we'll have strong institutions there that can replicate what they do there. We can have a solid argument as to the relevance of flying to the UK. Thousands of miles away and talking to Nigerians about what they tend to do in a foreign land. But for now, we can't tolerate that because within here, we've not done the needful to accommodate what they're doing there.
Freddie Twa, thank you very much for your time this morning. Interesting points that you've made, and we look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you for having me.